The training room on the UES Valiant was filled with noise. Crew members practiced their fighting moves on the mats. Some threw punches at training dummies. Others worked on their kicks and blocks. The sound of bodies hitting mats and people breathing hard echoed through the large space. Lieutenant Maya Torres stood near the wall watching everything. She had dark hair pulled back tight. Her body looked strong but not overly big. She wore the standard training uniform that everyone else had on. Nothing about her seemed special or different from any other crew member at first look. She watched two crew members sparring on the center mat. The taller one kept dropping his right shoulder before he punched. Maya made a mental note to correct that habit later. Small mistakes like that could get someone killed in real combat. Well, look who finally showed up to training. Maya turned her head toward the voice. Lieutenant Commander Greg Matthews walked across the room toward her. He was a big man with wide shoulders and thick arms. He had only been on the Valiant for 2 weeks after transferring from another ship. In those 2 weeks, he had made it clear that he thought he was better than most people around him. "Matthews," Maya said with a simple nod. Her voice was calm and even. Greg stopped a few feet away from her. He crossed his arms over his chest and looked down at her. He was at least 6 inches taller than Maya. A smile that was not friendly spread across his face. "So, you're the famous combat instructor everyone talks about," Greg said. His voice was loud enough that several people nearby stopped what they were doing to listen. "I've got to be honest, Torres. I expected someone more impressive." Maya did not respond right away. She just looked at him with steady eyes. She had dealt with men like Greg Matthews many times before in her career. Men who thought size and strength were all that mattered in a fight. "Impressive is a matter of opinion," Maya finally said. Greg laughed. The sound was meant to make her feel small. "Come on now. You're what, 5'6"? Maybe 130 pounds? And they put you in charge of teaching combat to the crew?" Several crew members were definitely watching now. Maya could see her friend Lisa Bennett across the room. Lisa looked worried and started walking closer. "Size doesn't determine skill," Maya said. Her tone stayed calm and professional. "Maybe not," Greg agreed, still smiling. "But I've been checking your record. You've never served on a frontline combat ship. No major battle experience listed. Just training certifications and instructor assignments. Seems to me like someone got promoted based on paperwork instead of actual fighting." This was not true, but Maya understood why he thought that. Much of her real combat experience was classified. Her official record had been scrubbed of the details from the Viridian conflict. Only the highest-ranking officers knew the full truth about what she had done and survived. "My record speaks for itself," Maya said simply. Greg uncrossed his arms and stepped onto the training mat. "Tell you what, Lieutenant. Why don't we have a friendly sparring match? You and me right here, right now. Let's see if you really deserve that instructor position." The room had gone much quieter now. At least 20 crew members had stopped their training to watch this confrontation. Maya could feel their eyes on her. Lisa reached the edge of the mat. "Greg, this isn't necessary. Lieutenant Torres doesn't need to prove anything to you." "I'm not talking to you, Bennett," Greg said without looking at Lisa. His eyes stayed fixed on Maya. "I'm talking to your instructor here, unless she's scared to back up all those teaching credentials with actual action." Maya studied Greg carefully. She noticed how he stood with most of his weight on his left leg. That meant his right knee probably had an old injury. She saw how he kept his hands low and loose. He was confident, maybe too confident. He thought his size advantage would win the fight before it even started. She could read everything about him in 30 seconds of observation. His fighting style would be aggressive and straightforward. He would rely on his strength and reach. He probably had basic military combat training, but nothing advanced. Men like him rarely thought they needed advanced training. "If you want to spar, Matthews, we can schedule a proper training session," Maya said. "But this isn't about training for you. This is about your ego." Greg's smile faded a little. "My ego? You're the one who won't step on the mat. Maybe all those other crews were right to question your appointment." Maya took a slow breath. She could walk away right now. She could report this to Captain Price and let the chain of command handle Greg's attitude problem. That would be the smart political move. But she was tired of men like Greg Matthews. Tired of having to prove herself over and over to people who judged her based on how she looked instead of what she could do. "Fine," Maya said. She stepped onto the mat. "1 round. Standard training rules. First person to submit or get pinned for 3 seconds loses." Greg's confident smile came back even bigger than before. "Now we're talking." Don't worry, Torres. I'll try not to hurt you too bad. The crew members formed a circle around the mat. Some looked excited to see a fight. Others looked uncomfortable watching their combat instructor get challenged like this. Lisa stood at the edge looking very worried. Maya took her position on one side of the mat. She settled into a ready stance that looked relaxed but balanced. Years of real combat training had taught her that tension was the enemy of speed. Greg bounced on his feet a little, loosening up his shoulders. He was clearly enjoying this moment. Ready when you are, instructor. Maya was about to respond when a loud voice came through the ship's communication system. Lieutenant Torres, report to the bridge immediately. Lieutenant Torres to the bridge. The command was clear and urgent. Maya straightened up immediately. Her attention shifted completely from Greg to the call she had just received. We'll have to continue this another time, Matthews, Maya said. She stepped off the mat and started walking toward the exit. Running away already? Greg called after her. Several people in the crowd looked uncomfortable at his words. I knew it. All talk and no action. Maya stopped at the doorway. She looked back at Greg over her shoulder. Her expression had not changed. It was still calm and professional. I don't run from anything, Matthews, she said clearly, but duty comes first. It always comes first. Then she walked out of the training room and into the corridor beyond. Her footsteps were quick and purposeful as she headed toward the bridge. Back in the training room, Lisa walked up to Greg. She did not look friendly anymore. You really don't know who you're dealing with, do you? Greg shrugged. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. Another overrated instructor who hides behind rank instead of proving themselves in actual combat. Lisa shook her head slowly. You're wrong. You're so completely wrong that it would be funny if it wasn't so sad. What's that supposed to mean? Greg asked. It means you just challenged someone who has seen more real combat than anyone else on the ship, Lisa said. It means you mocked someone who has earned every single bit of respect she gets. And when you finally figure that out, you're going to feel like the biggest fool in the fleet. Greg laughed again, but it sounded less confident than before. Sure, whatever you say, Bennett. But as Lisa walked away, Greg found himself wondering. There had been something in Maya's eyes when she looked at him. Not fear or anger. Something else. Something that made him feel like he had just made a very big mistake. He pushed the thought away. She was small. She had no combat decorations on her public record. She had backed down from his challenge. All the evidence pointed to her being exactly what he thought she was. But deep down, a small voice in his head whispered that he had missed something important. Something that everyone else on the ship seemed to understand except him. Maya Torres was not what she appeared to be. And Greg Matthews was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Maya reached the bridge in less than 5 minutes. She moved quickly through the corridors of the Valiant, her mind already shifting from the training room incident to whatever emergency required her immediate presence. The bridge doors opened with a soft hiss. Captain Helen Price stood at the main command station. Next to her was Commander Jack Harper, the executive officer. Both of them looked serious. That was never a good sign. Lieutenant Torres reporting as ordered, Captain, Maya said. She stood straight with her hands behind her back in proper military stance. Captain Price turned to face her. The captain was in her late 50s with gray hair and lines around her eyes that came from years of command decisions. At ease, Lieutenant. We have a situation that needs your special skills. Maya relaxed slightly but stayed alert. When a captain said someone had special skills, it usually meant a dangerous mission was coming. Commander Harper touched a control panel, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. It showed a map of nearby space. A red dot blinked on the map, marking a location in a remote sector. 3 hours ago, we received a distress call from Research Station Delta 7, Commander Harper explained. His voice was steady, but Maya could hear the concern in it. The station was doing research on alien cultures that haven't discovered space travel yet. Then they were attacked. Attacked by who? Maya asked. She stepped closer to look at the holographic map. That's the problem, Captain Price said. We don't know. The transmission cut off before they could give us much information. What we did hear suggests these weren't normal pirates or raiders. The station's security team was defeated in just a few minutes. Maya studied the map. Research Station Delta 7 was far from any major shipping lanes. It was not a place that would normally attract attention from criminals. That meant whoever attacked it went there specifically. The station commander is Dr. Alan Foster, Commander Harper continued. Before the transmission ended, He said he had locked down the research data in the station's core systems. We don't know if he or anyone else survived the attack. What do you need from me, Captain? Maya asked, though she already had a good idea of the answer. Captain Price looked directly at Maya. You're leading the rescue team. We need someone who can handle a combat situation, evaluate the tactical problems, and get any survivors out safely. Your experience makes you the obvious choice for this mission. Maya felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle onto her shoulders. People's lives would depend on the decisions she made. That weight never got lighter no matter how many missions she completed. Understood, ma'am. What's my team going to be? Commander Harper manipulated the holographic display to show different information. You'll have 10 people, 6 security personnel, 2 medical officers, and 2 engineering specialists. You'll take the shuttle Athena and depart in 2 hours. The Valiant will stay at the edge of the system, Captain Price added. We can't risk bringing the whole ship into a potentially hostile area without knowing what we're facing. You'll have communication support, but you'll basically be on your own until we can confirm the area is secure. Maya nodded. This was standard procedure for unknown threat situations. Don't risk the whole ship when a small team could gather intelligence first. I'll need complete access to the station's floor plans and any information we have about the distress call, Maya said. Already being transferred to your personal data pad, Commander Harper confirmed. There's one more thing you should know, Torres. We think this attack might be connected to the Viridian conflict. Maya felt her body tense slightly. She kept her face neutral, but inside her mind was already racing. The Viridian conflict had been 3 years ago. It had been brutal and bloody. She still had nightmares about it sometimes. The Viridian conflict ended years ago, Maya said carefully. Officially, yes, Captain Price replied, but intelligence reports have suggested that some Viridian forces scattered instead of surrendering. They might still be operating in remote sectors. If this is them, you need to be extremely careful. Maya understood what the captain was really saying. The Viridian soldiers had used experimental technology to make themselves stronger and faster than normal humans. They had been nearly impossible to fight using standard military tactics. If those soldiers were still out there, this mission had just become much more dangerous. I'll be ready, Captain, Maya said firmly. I know you will, Captain Price said. Torres, I'm counting on you to bring everyone back safely. That includes yourself. I always do my best, ma'am, Maya replied. Captain Price nodded. Dismissed. You have 2 hours to prepare. Maya left the bridge and headed straight for her quarters. She needed to review the station plans and the distress call data. Every bit of information could be the difference between life and death on this mission. Her quarters were small but organized. Everything had its place. Maya sat at her desk and pulled up the files on her datapad. The station floor plans appeared on the screen. She studied them carefully, memorizing every corridor, every room, every potential hiding spot or defensive position. The distress call recording was short and choppy. Dr. Foster's voice was panicked. This is Research Station Delta 7. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. They've breached the outer sections. Security team is down. Repeat, security team is down. I'm locking the core data systems. If anyone receives this, send help immediately. Then there was the sound of weapons fire and screaming before the transmission ended. Maya played it 3 more times, listening carefully to the background noises. She could hear the weapons being used. They sounded like military-grade energy rifles, not the kind of weapons that pirates or raiders normally carried. Her door chime sounded. Come in, Maya called out. Lisa entered, looking worried. I heard you got called to the bridge. What's going on? Rescue mission, Maya said without looking up from her datapad. Research station under attack. I'm leading the team. Lisa sat down on the edge of Maya's bed. Is it bad? Unknown hostiles. Possible connection to Viridian conflict remnants. Departure in 2 hours. Lisa was quiet for a moment. She knew about Maya's history with the Viridian conflict. Not all the details, those were classified. But she knew enough to understand why this mission was particularly difficult for Maya. You okay? Lisa asked quietly. Maya finally looked up from her datapad. I'm fine. This is my job. Your job is to teach combat, not to walk into potential death traps. My job is to serve where I'm needed, Maya corrected. Right now I'm needed on this mission. People might still be alive on that station. If there's any chance I can save them, I have to try. Lisa sighed. She knew there was no point in arguing. Just be careful. and come back in one piece. Always the plan, Maya said with a small smile. After Lisa left, Maya continued her preparations. She checked and rechecked her gear. Her rifle was cleaned and loaded. Her armor was inspected for any weak points. Her medical kit was fully stocked. She packed extra ammunition and several types of grenades. She changed into her combat uniform. As she pulled on the long-sleeved shirt, she caught a glimpse of her arms in the mirror. The scars were visible even through the fabric in the right light. Long lines and circular marks that told stories she rarely shared with anyone. She covered them with her armor and jacket. The scars were her business, not something for public display. 1 hour before departure, Maya met with her team in the briefing room. She had chosen each person carefully. Lieutenant Kyle Barnes would pilot the shuttle. He was young but skilled. Corporal Ben Wright was steady and reliable in combat. Specialist Emma Cole was one of the best medics on the ship. The others were all experienced crew members she trusted. "Listen carefully," Maya said, standing at the front of the room. "We're going into an unknown situation. Research Station Delta 7 was attacked approximately 3 hours ago. We don't know who attacked them, or if the hostiles are still present. We don't know if there are any survivors." She pulled up the station plans on the briefing room screen. "Our primary objective is to locate and extract any survivors. Secondary objective is to secure the research data if possible. But let me be clear, lives come before data. We don't take unnecessary risks." "What about the hostiles?" Ben Wright asked. "What are our rules of engagement?" "Defensive only," Maya replied. "We identify ourselves clearly. We give them a chance to surrender if we encounter them. But if they fire first, you are authorized to return fire. Your safety and the safety of any survivors is the priority." She looked at each team member. "I won't lie to you. This could be dangerous. There's a possibility these attackers are connected to the Viridian conflict. If you've heard stories about those soldiers, believe them. They're fast, they're strong, and they're well-trained. But we have something they don't," Maya continued. "We have teamwork. We have discipline. We have the element of surprise. And we have a plan. Stick to the plan, watch each other's backs, and we all come home." "Questions?" Specialist Emma Cole raised her hand. "What if we can't reach any survivors? What if we're walking into a trap?" It was a good question. Maya appreciated people who thought about worst-case scenarios. "If it's a trap, we spring it carefully and then we get out," Maya said. "We're not heroes trying to win medals. We're professionals trying to save lives." The shuttle Athena moved through the darkness of space toward Research Station Delta 7. Maya sat in the cockpit next to Kyle Barnes. Her eyes were fixed on the view screen showing the station growing larger as they approached. "Sensors are not picking up any active weapons," Kyle reported. His hands moved across the control panel with practiced ease. "But there's a lot of debris floating around. Looks like there was definitely a fight here." Maya studied the tactical display. The station looked mostly intact from the outside, but several sections showed damage from explosions. What concerned her more was the complete silence. No communications, no power readings from most of the facility. "Life signs?" Maya asked. Kyle shook his head. "Too much interference. The station's backup generators are creating some kind of electromagnetic field. It's scrambling our long-range scanners. We won't know if anyone's alive until we're inside." Behind them in the passenger section, the rest of the team made their final preparations. Ben Wright checked his rifle for the 4th time. Emma Cole went through the medical supplies one more time. Everyone was nervous. That was normal before a mission like this. "Listen up," Maya said, turning to address the team. "We're going and assuming hostiles may still be present. Standard breach and clear procedures. Cruz and Hayes, you're on power restoration once we secure the primary corridor. Cole and Stevens, you focus on finding survivors and treating injuries. Everyone else stays alert and watches your assigned sectors." Petty Officer Danny Cruz looked up from the engineering plans he was studying. "What if we run into hostiles? What's the plan?" "We identify ourselves first," Maya said firmly. "Give them the chance to surrender. But if they open fire, you return fire with appropriate force. Our goal is to rescue people, not to fight. We get in, find survivors, and get out. Clear?" Everyone nodded or said yes. The shuttle docked with the station's emergency airlock without any problems. Maya was the first one through the airlock door. Her rifle was up and ready. She moved into the darkened corridor beyond. Atmosphere is breathable but thin, Kyle reported through the communication system. Someone vented several sections on purpose. The team moved in tactical formation with Maya at the front. The station was eerily quiet. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. The only sounds were their footsteps and the occasional groan of metal under stress. As they moved deeper into the station, they started seeing signs of the attack. Scorch marks on the walls from energy weapons, spent ammunition casings on the floor, and blood. Dark stains leading down the corridors. They found the first body in the main research area. A young scientist, maybe 25 years old at most. She had been trying to reach the emergency shelter when she died. Emma Cole knelt beside the body and checked for vital signs even though it was obvious the woman was dead. Emma looked up at Maya and shook her head slowly. "Keep moving," Maya ordered quietly. The death weighed on all of them, but they couldn't stop now. As they continued toward the station's core systems, Maya noticed something strange about the attack pattern. The damage was too precise. This wasn't random violence from raiders looking for supplies. Whoever attacked this station knew exactly what they were doing. They reached the main security station and found it completely destroyed. The monitors were smashed. The communication equipment had been taken apart, piece by piece, not just damaged, but deliberately dismantled. "This was intentional," Ben Wright said, examining the wreckage. "They didn't want anyone calling for help. Or they wanted to buy time before help arrived," Maya added. Her instincts were screaming that something was wrong. This whole situation felt like a trap. A sound echoed through the corridor behind them. Metal scraping against metal. The entire team froze with weapons raised. "Identify yourself," Maya called out. Her voice was strong and commanding. "This is Lieutenant Maya Torres of the United Earthship Valiant. We are here to help." Silence answered her for several long seconds. Then a weak voice called back, "Help. Please help me." Maya signaled for Emma and Medic Stevens to move forward with her while the others provided cover. They found a man pinned under a collapsed section of ceiling. His leg was bent at a wrong angle. He wore a researcher's uniform and his eyes showed shock and pain. "We've got you," Emma said gently. She immediately began assessing his injuries. "What's your name?" "Dr. Peter Walsh," the man gasped. His breathing was labored. They came out of nowhere. So many of them. "Who came? Who attacked you?" Maya asked. She kept her tone calm to avoid making him more panicked. "Soldiers," Peter whispered. His voice shook with fear. "But not normal soldiers. They moved too fast, too coordinated, like they weren't quite human anymore. They killed everyone they found and took the others." Maya felt cold dread in her stomach. This confirmed her worst fears. "Took them? Where?" Peter's eyes went wide with terror. "The lower levels. They're still down there, and I think they're waiting for someone to come rescue us." Before Maya could respond, an explosion rocked the corridor behind them. The sound of gunfire erupted from the direction of the docking bay where they had left the shuttle. Kyle's voice crackled urgently over the communication system. "This is Barnes. We're under attack. Multiple hostiles moving on the shuttle. I'm sealing the airlock, but you need to find another way out." Maya's mind raced through the options. They were trapped in a hostile station. An unknown number of enemies stood between them and their only escape route. This had gone from a rescue mission to a survival situation. "Everyone fall back to the research area," Maya ordered. "Move now." The team retreated quickly, dragging Dr. Walsh with them. As they moved, Maya caught a glimpse of their attackers. They moved through the shadows like ghosts. Their armor seemed to absorb the dim light. Peter had been right about one thing. They moved with an inhuman precision that was terrifying to watch. The research area became their defensive position. Ben and Nina Palmer started setting up barricades using furniture and equipment. Emma and Stevens worked on stabilizing Dr. Walsh's injuries. Everyone else took up positions covering the entrances. "We're pinned down," Kyle reported from the shuttle. "I can hold them off for a while, but I can't take off without the rest of you. They damaged the primary airlock controls." Maya pulled up the station plans on her datapad. She studied them quickly, looking for alternatives. There's a secondary maintenance airlock on level 3. If we can reach it and override the security lockout, we can do a spacewalk to the shuttle. That's 100 meters through open corridors, Ben said grimly. They'll cut us down before we make it halfway. Not if we give them something else to focus on, Maya replied. Her tactical mind was working through scenarios she had hoped never to use again. Emma finished with Dr. Walsh and moved to Maya's side. Lieutenant, with respect, there are too many of them. We need backup from the Valiant. The Valiant is 2 hours away at maximum speed, Maya said flatly. We don't have 2 hours, maybe not even 1 hour. She looked at each member of her team. She could see the fear in their eyes, but also determination. They were good people. They didn't deserve to die in this place. I need you all to trust me, Maya said. I've been in situations like this before. When? Nina Palmer challenged. When have you been trapped on a space station by superhuman soldiers? Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she began unsealing her uniform jacket. 3 years ago, during the Viridian conflict, the team watched as Maya removed her jacket and then the thermal shirt beneath it. She was left wearing just a tank top. What they saw made several people gasp. Maya's arms and shoulders were covered in scars. Not small surgical scars, but brutal marks of combat. Blade wounds, burns, impact trauma. What looked like scoring from energy weapons. Her body was a map of violence survived. The most striking scar ran from her right shoulder down across her ribs. It was the kind of wound that should have killed someone. Around her left forearm were circular burn marks in a pattern that suggested torture. The Viridian conflict wasn't just a military operation, Maya said quietly. Her voice carried a weight that made everyone listen. It was a nightmare. The Viridian remnants used experimental technology on their soldiers. They were faster and stronger than normal humans, nearly impossible to stop with standard tactics. She pointed to the long scar on her shoulder. I got this leading a rescue operation almost exactly like this one. Research station overrun. Hostages taken. My team went in expecting raiders. We found augmented soldiers instead. Danny Cruz spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. The Viridian Station massacre. That was you? Maya nodded slowly. I was the only survivor from the initial assault team. 23 good soldiers died in the first 10 minutes. I spent 3 days inside that station, wounded and alone. I fought 40 augmented soldiers using guerrilla tactics. The report said the survivor was suffering from severe trauma and couldn't be clearly identified in the records, Lauren Hayes said. Pieces were clicking together in her mind. They classified everything. They did, Maya confirmed, because I didn't just survive. I killed every single one of those augmented soldiers. I freed the hostages. I held the station until reinforcements arrived, but I didn't do it by being stronger or faster than them. She looked around at her team. I did it by being smarter, by using their... The lights went dark. In that moment of complete blackness, Maya moved. She had spent the last 10 minutes memorizing every detail of the research area. While the augmented soldiers' enhanced vision system struggled to adjust to the sudden darkness, Maya was already in motion. Her human eyes adapted naturally to the lack of light. She heard them coming before she saw them. The faint sound of advanced armor moving, the controlled breathing of soldiers who relied on their technology. Maya had positioned herself behind a large research terminal with her rifle aimed at the main entrance. The first soldier came through the doorway fast. He moved with the kind of speed that would impress most military observers. But Maya had seen this exact movement before on Viridian Station. She knew the pattern. She fired 3 quick bursts, not at where the soldier was, but at where his training would force him to move next. The soldier went down. His armor sparked from the hits. Contact! A voice called out in the darkness. Maya was already moving to a new position. She rolled behind a support column as return fire tore through the space where she had been standing just seconds before. She's alone, another voice said. This one had the flat, emotionless tone of someone augmented beyond normal human speech. Standard suppression pattern Delta. Maya almost smiled at that. Delta pattern. The same tactics the Viridian soldiers had used. These weren't just similar to the augmented soldiers from 3 years ago. They were from the same program or something very close to it, which meant she knew exactly what they would do next. 3 soldiers advanced in a coordinated triangle formation. Maya had prepared for this. She threw a makeshift flashbang she had created using chemicals from the research lab. Emma had pointed them out earlier when setting up the medical station. The explosion was smaller than a military-grade device, but in the enclosed space it was enough. The soldiers' enhanced hearing made the blast particularly painful for them. Maya moved through their confusion like a shadow. She had learned on Viridian Station that you didn't fight augmented soldiers head-on. You disrupted their patterns. You forced them to deviate from their programming. You made them react like regular humans instead of perfect machines. She wounded 2 more soldiers. She was careful to injure them rather than kill them outright. Wounded soldiers slowed down their teammates. They created hesitation. They made the others more cautious. She has combat training, one of the soldiers reported. His voice showed the first hint of uncertainty. Possibly special operations background. Irrelevant, the commander's voice responded. She's 1 human. We are 12. Converge on her position. Maya had been counting. 12 total soldiers. She had taken down 3. The diversion team would have pulled 2 or 3 away from her position. That left 6 or 7 still focused on her. She could work with those odds. She had faced worse. In the corridors beyond the research area, she could hear Nina and Ben doing their job. Explosions and gunfire echoed through the station. They were drawing attention away from the medical team's escape route. Kyle's voice came through her earpiece. Torres, we're at the airlock. Dr. Walsh is secured. We're waiting for you. Negative, Maya replied quietly. She was crouched behind a row of storage containers. Proceed with evacuation. I'll cover your exit and meet you at Rally Point Beta. Rally Point Beta was code. It meant Maya wasn't planning to come to the airlock. She was going to make sure everyone else got out even if she didn't make it. Like hell, Kyle said firmly. We're not leaving without you, Lieutenant. That's an order, Barnes, Maya said. Then she cut the communication before he could argue. She had maybe 5 minutes before the soldiers regrouped and changed tactics. Time to finish this. Maya moved to the environmental control panel. She had studied the station systems during the approach. With quick, precise movements, she initiated a controlled decompression sequence in the corridors around her position. Not enough to kill anyone, but enough to create chaos. The air began rushing out of the corridors in a powerful wind. The augmented soldiers were strong and fast, but they still had to obey physics. As the decompression started, their tight formation broke apart. They had to choose between continuing their attack or securing themselves to avoid being pulled toward the breach. In that moment of decision, Maya struck. She came out of cover and engaged the remaining soldiers with precision born from hard experience. She targeted armor joints where the plating was thinner. She aimed for weapon systems and sensory equipment instead of trying to punch through the heavy chest plates. The fight was brutal and fast. 1 soldier managed to get close enough for hand-to-hand combat. His augmented strength made him dangerous. A single punch could break bones. But Maya had fought these battles before. She used his momentum against him. When he swung, she redirected the force. When he tried to grab her, she moved with the motion instead of resisting. She took a hard hit to her ribs. She felt something crack inside her chest. Pain shot through her body, but she kept fighting. Another soldier's blade grazed her left arm, cutting deep enough to leave a new scar alongside the old ones. But pain was just information. It could be processed later when the fight was over. She swept the legs out from under one soldier and used his own knife against the weak point at his neck joint. She dodged another's attack and put 3 rounds through his knee joint, dropping him to the ground. When the last soldier fell, Maya stood alone in the darkness. She was breathing hard. Blood ran down her arm from the new cut. Her ribs screamed with every breath. But she was still standing and they were not. She sealed the decompression, bringing the atmosphere back to normal levels. Then she checked on her team's status. All teams report, she ordered into her communicator. One by one, her team checked in. They were all at the secondary airlock. All alive. Emma reported that Dr. Walsh was stable despite his injuries. Nina and Ben had taken minor wounds but were still combat capable. We're not leaving without you, Kyle repeated. His tone made it clear this wasn't up for discussion. Maya allowed herself a small, tired smile. Then you better guide me to an exit route, Barnes. I'm not sure I can walk much further on my own. The team had secured the route from her position to the airlock. Maya made her way through the corridors, one hand pressed against her injured ribs. Every step hurt, but she kept moving. Stopping meant giving up, and that wasn't in her nature. Ben and Nina met her halfway and helped support her weight. They moved as quickly as Maya's injuries allowed. "That was the craziest thing I've ever seen," Ben said as they walked. "You took on 7 augmented soldiers alone and won." 8, actually, Maya corrected through gritted teeth. "One tried to flank me near the end." They reached the airlock where the rest of the team waited. Emma immediately started treating Maya's wounds. The cut on her arm needed sealing. The ribs were cracked but not broken through. She would survive. "Everyone accounted for?" Maya asked. "Everyone's here," Emma confirmed. "Now let's get out of this place." The spacewalk to the shuttle was tense. They moved in pairs using magnetic boots and safety lines. Dr. Walsh was secured to a stretcher that Ben and Danny pulled across. Maya went last, making sure everyone else was safe before she left the station. The shuttle pulled away from Research Station Delta 7 just as a second wave of hostile forces arrived. They were too late to stop the rescue team's escape. During the 2-hour flight back to the Valiant, Maya sat quietly while Emma finished treating her injuries. The team was silent, processing everything they had witnessed. They had gone on a simple rescue mission and ended up in a fight for survival. "How many scars did you have before today?" Nina finally asked. Her voice was quiet, almost respectful. Maya looked at the fresh bandage on her arm where a new scar would eventually form. "I stopped counting after Viridian Station." "They're not something to be proud of. They're just reminders." "Reminders of what?" Ben asked. "That survival isn't about being the strongest or fastest," Maya replied. "It's about being smart, about adapting, about never giving up no matter how bad things get. Every scar taught me something. How to fight better, how to think faster, how to lead when everything is falling apart." Emma looked at Maya with new respect. "You could have left us, saved yourself, but you stayed and fought to give us time to escape. That's what leaders do," Maya said simply. "We put our people first, always." The shuttle docked with the Valiant. Captain Price and Commander Harper were waiting in the docking bay. So was Greg Matthews. Maya limped off the shuttle, supported by Ben and Nina. Her uniform was torn and bloody. The bandages on her arm were visible. Some of her older scars showed through the damaged fabric of her uniform. Greg stared at her. For the first time since he had come aboard the Valiant, his confident expression was completely gone. He looked shocked and maybe a little ashamed. "Lieutenant Torres," Captain Price said formally. "Outstanding work. All survivors extracted, hostile force neutralized. Your entire team returned safely. This is exactly the kind of leadership this ship needs." "Thank you, Captain," Maya replied. Her voice was tired but steady. "Dr. Walsh has important information about the attack. He should be debriefed immediately." The medical team took Dr. Walsh away on a stretcher. Maya's team dispersed to write their reports and get checked by medical. Only Greg remained, standing awkwardly near the docking bay entrance. The next morning, Maya woke up in the medical bay. Her ribs were wrapped tight and her arm was properly bandaged. The doctor had given her pain medication, but she had refused anything too strong. She needed to stay alert and focused. "You should rest for at least 3 more days," Dr. Sarah Kim said, reviewing Maya's charts. "Those ribs need time to heal properly." "I'll rest when I'm dead," Maya replied. She was already sitting up and testing her range of motion. Everything hurt, but nothing was broken beyond repair. "That's what I'm worried about," Dr. Kim said with a frown. "You push yourself too hard, Torres. One of these days your body is going to give out." Maya had heard this lecture before. "My body has held up fine for this long. I know my limits." She signed herself out of medical against the doctor's advice and headed back to her quarters. She showered carefully, keeping the bandages dry. Then she changed into a fresh training uniform. At exactly 0600 hours, Maya entered the training hall. She expected to find Greg Matthews waiting for her. What she didn't expect was to see him along with Nina Palmer, Ben Wright, Emma Cole, and at least a dozen other crew members. They all stood at attention when she entered. "What's this?" Maya asked, looking around at the assembled group. Greg stepped forward. "We all want to train with you properly, Lieutenant. Learn from someone who actually knows what real combat looks like." Maya studied the faces around her. She saw respect in their eyes now. Not fear or doubt, but genuine respect. These people wanted to learn from her experience. They wanted to be better prepared for the dangers they might face. "All right," Maya said finally. "But understand this. Real combat training isn't like the regular drills. It's harder. It hurts. You'll be pushed beyond what you think your limits are. Some of you might decide it's not worth it. We understand, Nina said. Several others nodded in agreement. Maya walked to the center of the training mat. Despite her injuries, she moved with purpose and control. The first lesson is this. The fighter who wins isn't the one who looks the toughest. It isn't the one who talks the loudest. It's the one who understands that every scar tells a story and every story has a lesson. She gestured to her bandaged arm. I got a new scar yesterday. Want to know what it taught me? It taught me that even when you think you've covered every angle, there's always one more threat you didn't see coming. The soldier who cut me came from a direction I thought was secured. I got comfortable for half a second and paid the price. The crew members listened intently. This wasn't theory or classroom learning. This was wisdom earned through pain and survival. Your job as fighters isn't to collect scars like me, Maya continued. Your job is to learn from my scars so you don't have to earn your own. Every mistake I made that left a mark on my body should teach you not to make that same mistake. She pointed to the long scar visible on her shoulder through the training uniform. This one came from underestimating my opponent. He looked tired and beaten. I thought he was finished, but he had one more attack left in him and I wasn't ready for it. Lesson: never assume the fight is over until your opponent can't physically continue. Greg listened carefully. His whole attitude had changed from 2 days ago. He wasn't standing with false confidence anymore. He stood with the posture of someone ready to learn. Matthews, step forward, Maya ordered. Greg walked onto the mat. He looked nervous but determined. 2 days ago you challenged me to a sparring match, Maya said. You judged me based on my size and what you thought you knew about my record. What did you learn from that? Greg took a breath. I learned that I'm an idiot who judges books by their covers. I learned that real skill doesn't come with a flashy appearance. And I learned that the most dangerous fighters are the ones who don't need to prove anything to anyone. Good, Maya said. Now I'm going to teach you why that matters in actual combat. For the next hour, Maya worked with Greg and the others on basic tactical thinking. She didn't focus on physical techniques. Instead, she taught them how to read opponents, how to spot weaknesses in stance and movement, how to use environment as a weapon, how to think 3 moves ahead. Despite her injuries, she demonstrated key concepts. When she moved, every motion had purpose. Nothing was wasted. She showed them how to redirect force instead of meeting it head-on, how to use an opponent's strength against them. Size and strength matter, Maya explained. I won't lie about that. But they matter less than you think. A smart fighter with good technique can defeat a stronger opponent. I've done it dozens of times. She had Greg attack her with a standard military strike. Maya was smaller and currently injured. By all logic, Greg should have had the advantage. But she sidestepped at the last moment, used his momentum to pull him off balance, and had him face down on the mat in under 3 seconds. See? Maya said, releasing him. I didn't overpower you. I used physics and timing. That's what real combat is about. The training session continued. Maya pushed them hard but not cruelly. She corrected mistakes firmly but patiently. When someone did something right, she acknowledged it. When they made errors, she explained why it was wrong and how to fix it. At one point, Ben asked the question that many were thinking. Lieutenant, the Viridian Station incident. Can you tell us what really happened there? The training hall went quiet. Everyone wanted to know, but no one had dared to ask directly until now. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she sat down on the edge of the mat. Her injured ribs made standing for long periods painful. Most of it is still classified, she said slowly, but I can tell you the basics. My team was sent to rescue hostages from a research station. We thought we were facing maybe a dozen raiders. Instead, we walked into 40 augmented Viridian soldiers. She looked at her hands. Even now, 3 years later, the memories were sharp. They killed most of my team in the first engagement. I survived because I was in the back of the formation. I got wounded early. This scar here, she pointed to her shoulder, that should have killed me. I was bleeding badly, but I crawled into the ventilation system and hid while they searched for survivors. I spent 3 days in those vents, bleeding, starving, in pain. But I stayed alive by watching them, learning their patterns, understanding how they thought and moved. How did you fight them? Nina asked softly. Guerrilla warfare, Maya replied. I couldn't face them directly, so I picked them off 1 or 2 at a time. I sabotaged their equipment. I created traps using station systems. I made them paranoid and jumpy, and slowly, over 3 days, I reduced their numbers. By the time rescue arrived, I had killed all 40 soldiers and freed the hostages. But it cost you, Emma said, looking at the visible scars. Maya nodded. Every single one of these scars came from that station. Some from combat. Some from the torture when they caught me on the second day. I escaped but barely. And yes, it cost me. I spent 6 months recovering physically. Another year recovering mentally. But I learned more about real combat in those 3 days than I had in 10 years of training. She stood up slowly, favoring her ribs. That's why I teach the way I do. That's why I push people to think instead of just being strong. Because in real combat, thinking is what keeps you alive. The training session ended with everyone exhausted but energized. They had learned more in 2 hours with Maya than they had in months of regular drills. As people were leaving, Greg approached Maya one more time. Thank you, Lieutenant, for giving me a chance to learn despite how I acted. Everyone deserves a chance to grow, Maya said. You made a mistake. You owned it. You're trying to do better. That's all anyone can ask. Over the next several days, Maya's training sessions became the most popular on the ship. Word spread about her teaching methods and the real wisdom she shared. Even crew members from other departments started attending when they could. Captain Price noticed the change in the crew. People were more confident but also more cautious in the right ways. They thought before acting. They worked together better. The entire combat readiness of the ship improved. 2 weeks after the rescue mission, Captain Price called Maya to her office. Sit down, Torres, the captain said, gesturing to a chair. How are the ribs healing? Well enough, Captain, Maya replied. Should be back to full capability in another week. Captain Price studied her for a moment. I've been reviewing the reports from the Delta 7 mission. Your team speaks very highly of you. They say you saved all their lives. I did my job, Maya said simply. You did more than your job, Captain Price corrected. You put yourself at extreme risk to ensure your team's survival. That kind of leadership is exactly what this fleet needs more of. The captain pulled up a file on her screen. I'm recommending you for a commendation. Also, Fleet Command has been asking questions about the Viridian Station incident. They want to declassify parts of your record. Maya tensed slightly. Why now? Because incidents like Delta 7 are becoming more common, Captain Price explained. Viridian remnants are still out there. They're still using augmented soldiers. The fleet needs officers who know how to fight them, officers like you. I don't want to be famous for that, Captain, Maya said quietly. I understand, Captain Price said gently, but sometimes our personal preferences have to take a back seat to the greater good. The fleet needs to learn from your experience. That means sharing what happened to you,